Chairman, we're live.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're in the afternoon session on March 27th. Our next agenda item is a public hearing. This is an action item, vacation of a portion of Crow Creek Road. The way this will work is I'll open up the public hearing. I'll ask for any ex parte or conflict of interest from the board. We'll get a report from staff, and then we'll just kind of open it up for testimony of proponents, opponents, and those uncommitted, and give you a chance to rebut anything at the end, and then we'll probably close the hearing, and we may not make a decision today, or we may, I don't know. We shall see. So we're going to open it up at 104, Doug, and I'll ask for any ex parte or conflict of interest.
I have none.
I have none either.
I have none either. So at this time, we will turn it over to staff.
Okay, so the staff report for vacation of a portion of Crow Creek Road, a public road right-of-way. It's a portion of Crow Creek Road from the existing Green Gate location to the junction of Horse Thief Road in section 13, 14, 15, and 22. Crow Creek Road from Highway 55 through to Horse Thief Road was validated by the Board of County Commissioners as a public right-of-way by Ordinance 90-2 on July 23rd, 1990. Crow Creek Road was revalidated by the Board of County Commissioners as a public right-of-way by Ordinance 20-01 on November 25th, 2019. On January 23rd, 2023, Tia Golden requested the Valley County Board of Commissioners determine if Crow Creek is a public or private road. A motion passed. The Valley County established Crow Creek from the Green Gate North as a private driveway that was created for logging. On February 13th, 2023, the board approved Resolution 23-06, Crow Creek Road, setting a public hearing in order to vacate the public right-of-way in accordance with Idaho Code 40-203, so as to abandon and vacate a portion of Crow Creek Road to be changed from a public road to a private ranch driveway with easements to adjoining properties. On February 21st, 2023, an email was received from Vince Scott, Vice President of DF Development, that they were okay with the vacation of Crow Creek Road, called Corral Ranch Road, in the email. That was prompted by an email from staff informing DF Development of the impending vacation of public right-of-way and requesting if they would like to include the portion of Crow Creek Road right-of-way that went through DF Development property. And then I attached that email for your review. I was asking them if they wanted to include their property also in this current action. The board is holding a public hearing in order to vacate a portion of Crow Creek Road from the existing Green Gate location to the junction with Horse Thief Road in sections 13, 14, 15, and 22, Township 13 North, Range 4 East of the Boise Meridian, Valley County, Idaho. This portion of road travels through. Property is currently owned by Alpha Ranch LLC, Joseph E. Kennedy, and DF Development LLC. If the Board of County Commissioners find that the proposed abandonment and vacation of a portion of Crow Creek Road is in the public interest, changes will be made to the records, including the official road name list, official road name maps, Valley County GIS maps, and then the assessor's records. Legal notice was posted in the Star News on March 2nd and March 9th, 2023. Potentially affected agencies were notified on February 23rd. Property owners along Crow Creek Road were notified by fax sheet sent February 23rd. The site was posted on March 16th. The notice fact sheet was also posted at post offices and in libraries in Cascade, Donley, McCall, and Yellow Pine. Agency comments received. Tom Reinhardt, Cascade Medical Center CEO, does not see any public benefits from privatizing the road. If it stays as a public road, people can use it to get to Horse Thief. Why would the public willingly give that up? Public comments received. Vince Scott, DF Development, confirmed on February 21st that they are okay with the vacationing of Crow Creek Road as a public road. Comment letters from the following were received on March 20th, stating the roadway in question is a private road. It was rebuilt in the early to mid-1970s by Boise Cascade in an agreement with Hugh Kennedy. It has been used for logging and ranching purposes. There has always been a lock gate in place and use allowed only to a few individuals. Letters were received from William Kennedy, Joseph P. Kennedy, Leonard and Leslie Irwin, Joe and Tracy Kennedy, Mary Kay Kennedy Rigsby, Brittany Kennedy, Milo Kennedy, Tom Olson Jr., Sadie Nace, Kim and Tina Shaw, Teresa Pfeiffer, Tim Mayers, and Jim Kennedy. Dwayne Peterson was Valley County Road Superintendent for 20 years and worked for J.I. Morgan Logging for 24 years. He commented on the history of the roadway and believes the county road ends at the Green Gate. Samuel Perry of Givens Pursley, representing Joe and Tracy Kennedy, responded in support of vacation of any public interest in the road and clarifying that the road is not public. There is no substantial or competent evidence in the road that the road is public. Information in support of this is included. Samuel Perry of Givens Pursley, representing DF Development, responded in support of vacating any public interest in the road and clarifying that the road is not public. There is no substantial or competent evidence that the road is public. Information in support of this is included. Iowa State Statute 40-203, abandonment and vacation of county and highway district system highways or public rights-of-way statutes were listed here for your review. Do you need me to go through
No.
those?
I don't, unless these guys do.
No, I don't.
I included A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, and K in that. And then 2 and 3, I removed 4 because it wasn't applicable to this action. And then included 5, A, B, C, and 6, that statute. Valley County Code 10-6-2, vacation of plats, public rights of way or easements is also not applicable because that's for roads that have been platted as part of a subdivision. The board should determine that that retaining the highway or public right-of-way for use by the public is not in the public interest, and such other highways or public rights-of-ways may be validated or judicially determined at any time, notwithstanding any provision of law, provided that any abandonment under this section shall be subject to and limited by the provisions of subsections 2 and 3 of this section. And then I just wanted to bring out that the Green Gate is not located on the property line. There's an easement through parcel 2403 will be necessary for parcels located east of the current Green Gate location and west of Horse Thief Road. This is the responsibility of the landowners. And then I proposed a motion here once you determine whether or not you're going to vacate it, if you choose to vacate it, from the property line or from the Green Gate. There were quite a number of attachments for your review, all of the history, proposed resolutions, letters received, assessor's plat, and then all of the responses. And I also attached the proposed resolution 23-09, which is a declaration of vacation of a portion of Crowell Creek Road, a public right-of-way. And once you determine if you choose to vacate this, where you're going to vacate it from, then we can complete that. After that, we'll have to do follow-up with the findings of fact and conclusions of law. So here's the road that's going to be vacated. It's Crowell Creek Road from here. Over to here, the intersection with Crowell Creek. Horse Thief Road. But here's my concern with the difference between the gate and the property line. This is where the gate is located. And if you vacate it from the gate through, then this parcel owned by Joseph Kennedy does not have frontage on this public road anymore.
So we would just take it to the property line, the Kennedy property line.
That would be my recommendation, because whoever owns this in the future, if they ever wanted to plat it, not that anybody is proposing any plats, I've talked to nobody about any plats, but if this property ever wanted to be platted, they wouldn't have frontage on a public road.
And you said earlier that that was up to the private landowners to do that easement?
They would have to give, this property would have to have an easement from the gate to this property.
So that would be an easement between the Kennedys and
Alpha Ranch.
Alpha Ranch.
Right. But my concern for the plat in the future is we don't allow plats to be accessed through an easement. It has to have either public road frontage or private road frontage built to a county standard.
And that was my question coming up is, I mean, DF's saying this is okay to do, but they can't plat anything.
Well, they have,
Yeah.
I explained everything to them and they still submitted, they have frontage on Horse Thief.
On Horse Thief.
So they have other public road frontage. And they have written easements through the Kennedy property.
But still, if you go to a plat, it is an easement. It's not, you can't just split off any of this.
But I'm assuming planning and zoning would pick that up if it was ever developed. So they
So,
would have to build a private road to that, through that easement.
They would
To
have
Crow
to
Creek.
plat a private road right of way.
Plat, yeah.
A 70-foot right of way back to the public road.
so making the vacation from the property line only makes sense for us.
Yes.
Okay.
It protects the ownership of this property
Yes.
so that they will always have access to a public road. Whereas
Do
DF
they, though?
Development has
I'm-
access to Horse Thief, which is also a public road.
Do they though? Because it's just on the property line. I mean, the only access, I guess I don't know all the ownership. But when you're pointing on the right side of that Corral Creek Road, okay, is it a different owner or is it the same owner on the left side?
This owner,
Okay, so
That's
Joe owns
Kennedy's.
all of that.
and this is a different owner on both sides of that road.
Okay.
So if you vacate from this green gate,
I just wanted to make sure that they own both sides of Corral Creek Road on the other sides.
yes,
So they would have.
there's nobody else to protect over here. So
Okay.
that's just my concern.
I think it's a valid concern.
Is, well,
to
and
protect the long-range interests of this property owner, whoever it is.
how
Okay.
many houses will we allow off a driveway? How many will the fire department allow off a driveway?
5.
So 5 homes off of a driveway.
That's what they tell us. I can do a shared driveway variance for up to 3. After 3, then you have to get a variance through the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. And historically, fire departments have stated they don't want more than 5.
Okay.
But I can't quote their standards. That's.
Canyon County, it was only 3, and that's what I was questioning is.
Okay, any more questions for Cinda?
Nope. Good.
Okay, so then we're gonna open this up for testimony. I would ask that if you're gonna give testimony, try and limit it to 3 minutes. Please state your name and the town you live in. You have a list, Cinda? Oh, awesome.
Not much of a list.
I could have got that. Thank you.
I can get it.
So the first one up on the list, Samuel Perry.
Cinda, do I need to put my name on the list or will I have the opportunity?
You'll have the opportunity.
Yeah. And this is proponents for the vacation.
My name's Samuel Perry. I'm an attorney with Gibbons Pursley. I represent the Kennedys and DF Development. And at the outset, I would ask if there are not very many people signed up, it'd be very helpful if I had more than 3 minutes. I understand that's discretionary, but I'm asking for
How
that.
much more do you need?
Maybe 8,
Okay,
6 to 8.
go.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I'm representing the Kennedys and DF Development, and most of my comments will apply to both. And if there's something that's client-specific, I'll make that clear. I'll start out by saying my clients support the vacation of Corral Creek Road, at least the portion that was noticed up. But the posture of this is a little bit interesting because my clients do not believe it ever was a public road in the first place. But to the extent that this gets us to the end and the commissioners decide that the final legal status is private, then, they're happy to support this proposal. according to the Idaho Supreme Court in Flying A Ranch v. Fremont City or Fremont County Commissioners, the county must have substantial and competent evidence before they claim that a road is public. And the record shows that there's never been any substantial or competent evidence. I have reviewed the commissioner minutes since 2017, and the discussion has always been, well, has there been use and maintenance? No maintenance. All the testimony has been no maintenance. And so there's no basis. The only thing the county claims is that these ordinances in 1990 and 2019, as listed in the public notice, were validations of the public road. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Those were naming and addressing ordinances, and even prior commissioners, and all of this is cited in my letter, even prior commissioners said, that's just for identifying addresses. If you want to validate a road, you follow Idaho Code 40-203A. And that's how you do it. It's simply never been done. So the court refers to the manifest unfairness created by unsubstantiated public road claims. And that's the case in this exact issue. Kennedys are selling their property, they have a prospective buyer, and then the county makes this unsubstantiated claim to the buyer that the road is public when there's absolutely no evidence of it. This can be problematic. Creating a public road requires following the law in effect at the time the supposed creation was supposed to happen. In 1990 and 2019, there was no law that allowed a private road to become public by including it on the naming and addressing ordinances or lists or even the official road map. There are 5 ways it could have happened, but none of them did. A statutory right-of-way, a statutory dedication, a common law dedication, an RS 2477. What were the other 2? Public use and maintenance, a certain quantum of that, or a formal validation proceeding following all the procedures in 40-203A. None of those ever happened. So without any legal basis, the county just simply cannot claim a road is public. Now, speaking for DF Development only now, the same exact thing is happening on Horse Thief Road, at least the portion that goes through DF Development's property. The county has made unsubstantiated claims that that is a public road, and it's not. So the county doesn't have to hold these proceedings every time. They can just stop claiming that certain roads are public and until after they have the substantial and competent evidence required by the Supreme Court. So finally, I'll just say that the commissioners will have to make a finding that vacation is in the public interest, and those findings should be specific. And one of the biggest reasons why vacating any interest in this road is in the public interest is because it's private property, and the county should not be maintaining any public interests in pure private property with no substantiating evidence. So that concludes my remarks. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Samuel. You did that a lot less than 8 minutes. Just a quick question. Do we know how the first part of Crow Creek from highway into the Green Gate was dedicated?
No, we do not. I will say that our focus has been on sections 15, 14, 13. I failed to mention that DF Development hired Stevens Historical Research, which is now Historical Research Associates, and they went through everything they could find, and there is no evidence that could support a finding that that road was ever public.
Okay, any questions for Samuel?
Well, I do have one for Cinda, though.
Thank you.
Where does DF property up here, Cinda?
Starts right here.
Right there?
This is Kennedy. And then it turns into DF here.
Right there. Okay.
Okay, the next victim on the list is Tracy Kennedy. Tracy, come on up. Good afternoon.
Hello. Do I need to state my name and where I live?
Sure, for
All
the
right,
record.
Tracy Kennedy, 11004 Highway 55, Cascade, Idaho. So, I'd like to point out that the public hearing notification should have stated the road was inaccurately validated as a public right-of-way in 1990, and this hearing for vacation of road is correcting that error. That way, the general public doesn't get into an uproar and think something is being taken away from them. Proof in point. The letter from Tom Reinhardt submitted during the comment period 3/2023, it read in part, I don't see how the public benefits from privatizing the road. And why would the public willingly give that up? He has no clue. It never was a public road. It was an administrative mistake. I suspect there are more who believe this deception as well. Members of, well, I'm not going to, you guys don't need to know that. That doesn't matter about how the general public has caused problems with our gates and put glue in the locks and ripped down no trespassing signs and painted profanity and so on. Allow me to clear this matter up once and for all. The Kennedy Farm and Ranch has been in Cascade since 1908. It has been ranched and farmed since then by 4 generations. One of the neighboring landowners in 1970s was Boise Cascade. In the 70s, an agreement between Hugh Kennedy, my father-in-law, the 2nd generation, and Boise Cascade was made, and Boise Cascade built the road. The road was maintained exclusively by the Kennedy family. Prior to the road, as it is now, it was a trail that existed to get around on the property to farm and ranch. The gate has had to be locked. Southern Idaho Timber Protection Agency was given keys for obvious reasons prior to the combination locks that we installed in the mid to late 90s. It is possible there was a mistake on the part of Valley County during the road classifying process in the 90s that led us here. The handling of the matter since is suspicious to me and makes me ask why. Why wasn't it corrected when it was brought to the commissioner's attention back in 2018 and to our attention? Why was it validated again in 2019 erroneously? And why am I spending thousands of dollars to fix this slipshod work? And hours and fuel to drive around to talk to all these different people that used to work for Boise Cascade back in the day and get all these comments to prove my land is my land. It's the responsibility of the county to ensure accuracy, and you have failed here. You should know we will continue to spend whatever time, energy, and money we need to defend our ranch from what amounts to, in our opinion, in an attempt of stealing our private property. Is that my timer? Is that for? Is it?
How much more you got, Tracy?
One sentence.
Sure, go ahead.
No, that was it.
That's it, you're done. Again, I appreciate this opportunity to set the record straight, and I look forward to Valley County fixing their mistake.
Thank you, Tracy. I think it's Joe Kennedy, but he must have learned to write at the same place I wrote.
Oh, boy. Is that a close school by? My name's Joe Kennedy, Cascade, Idaho. Just one thing for you, Elk, that you was wondering about why Crow Creek road from the highway became
Yeah.
county. We sat and talked to Dwayne Peterson for hours, and he says, remember the road coming but through your place? Then it went up Alpha, come down Kennedy,
Right.
and down Krell. That's how.
Oh, it went back out that way.
That's what he says. That's how it become a county.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with vacating it, and enough's been said. I agree with them, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for Joe?
We're good. We're good.
Can I ask one?
Sure.
Is it okay to do it from the property line versus the gate?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, thanks for that.
Yes. I was almost a walk away, and I was going to turn around. I figured that's what you was going to say. So.
She keeps me out of trouble. Good question.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Thanks.
John Knight.
Hello, my name is John Knight. I'm out of Boise, Idaho, but I am buying right now on Warm Lake Road. So I'm going to be your neighbor soon, buying 300 acres over there from
Appreciate your taxes.
Thank you. You're welcome. They're going up. I agree with Joe. Everything that has been said is enough. But yeah, thank you for your time.
All right. Anyone else that's a proponent? That's the end of my list.
So I'm Tia Golden, and I live in McCall, Idaho. I represent the buyer. The title company does show that it goes to the end of Calendar Road. The way the title company, when they pull it up, it shows like two big red lines. Yeah, and it ends there. And so it doesn't show from the title company that it does go all the way to the Green Gate. But then, like Joe was saying, I guess back when they did the Calendar Road, that's when they created that section. The title company doesn't have record of that. So it was the title company's suggestion and mine that the buyer, still get an easement from Calendar Road to the corner of the property. If you could pull up where the Kennedys have 160 acres that butts up to the 320 acre piece, where the road goes on to the Simplot's property on Alpha. No, like further up, because that's that one right there. So we had recommended that Corral Creek meet at the corner there instead of going across the Simplot's property, and the buyer was going to pay to have OK Gravel build the road to county specs to come in at that corner. That way we didn't need to get an easement from Alpha. If you decide not to vacate it at the property line and you do vacate it at the Green Gate, that's our prepared workaround that we have written up.
Well, I would assume we would have to go clear to the Kennedy boundary because we're not asking Alpha
Right.
Ranch for any of this. They're
Right.
not. So this would be clear
That-
to the Kennedy
Because
boundary
the
line.
Kennedys also own this property
Right.
here. Yeah, and so we would be getting an easement from, Corral Creek Road, where the title company shows, all the way up through to the corner.
So just go straight and then
Yeah, and then
take a
into that
right
corner.
turn.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't own this piece.
Ooh. Those two corners where they meet, you can't go through there. Not those two, the two yellow. Nope. Down further. And one more. Right there. Because it would go through the corner where those two corners meet. The 160 acres is at the yellow line. Yep, right through there. Is that a possibility?
Well, we got Diane back on the northeast-west corner. Who's on the southwest corners? And that's Joe's too, isn't it?
This is Joe's.
Joe's kitty corner
This
across,
is Joe's.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Not Joe's. This is not Joe's.
Right.
You only have a touch point
So you would
there.
only, so you wouldn't be
Wouldn't
able to
have
go
enough for a
through.
road.
Okay, so we'd have to vacate it at the property line for this to work.
Tia, what size of easement are you guys gonna ask for?
Well, we talked with the fire department, and they recommended the 70-foot easement for turnaround for emergency vehicles. And so that was what we had asked the lawyer or whatever to write up.
And so what's there now, Cinda? From there back out to Corral Creek, what's that easement now?
25 feet from center.
So then you're gonna have to work with
It's our-
Alpha
It's our validated road right
in their validated.
there is no deed, there's no title.
Yeah, it
They're
doesn't.
Prescriptive easements.
Yep.
The way we created all the roads all over the county. 25 feet from the center, but they can plat this from a public road. If in the future they wanted to plat back to wherever it turns public, it would have to be a 70-foot right of way. That's our new standards.
And they're not interested in developing, so I know that's not a concern.
No,
even
but
for
we have to
Crystal.
think generations
Right.
down, kind of a deal.
This is the one-time shot to get whatever you need
Yeah.
for any
Well,
time in the
just
future
be
without
right.
buying it, so.
Yeah, I think it would add certainly more value to your whole area if you did have a 70-foot easement through there. Okay, any more questions for Tia? No? Anyone else that is a proponent?
Did you want to talk? Are you a proponent or?
Are you an opponent?
I'm against it.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're gonna move, before we get to that part, we're gonna do uncommitted. That's what the law says I have to do. Anybody that's uncommitted just wants to talk. Nope. Okay, there, we're gonna go to testimony of opponents. So anybody that's opposed, come on up, state your name and the town you live in. I don't need your address. Just your town.
My name's Philip Bennett, and I live at 10871 Calendar Road, which is a private road off of Corral Creek Road. And I totally support the Kennedy family's claims that it's never been a public road. He's been very kind up in 2019 to let us cross his property to access Corral Creek Reservoir and Horse Thief. But in 2018-19, loose cows, damage, caused him to lock the gate, which I totally respect. And again, just support his claim that Boise Cascade paid for the road for logging purposes, not for the county to have to maintain road where it's sited on private property on either side of it. So there's no public access. I see no benefit to the public by having this as a road, as a being negatively impacted by the traffic of people getting lost on Kennedy Road, which is a cow chute. Because of Google, we don't want to direct traffic for 20 miles on a dirt road for people to get to Horse Thief when they can drive on a highway much more easily, safely. The additional traffic to our road just increases safety issues at the highway for campers, trucks, boats, ATVs slowing down to make the turn on and off on a 65-mile-an-hour road. And there's just I waited as long this last summer as 12 minutes just to pull out on the highway and 8 minutes to turn left to get home. There's just no value for the public because there's no public access. It just is a burden to us as the landowners on a private road, which we maintain. The only value would be for development purposes, that there would be a county maintained road adjacent to the private property, so they went higher density. That's a benefit to them. But in our case, we pay for our own road maintenance, which the landowners, should they develop in the future, could make it a private road, and then they could take care of their own expenses like we do instead of being a public burden. So I see no value in having a dirt road that goes to Horse Thief and nowhere else for public access when they can get there safely on a paved road using the highway and the highway. So it negatively will impact us because basically Calendar Road is a dead end road, and we already are having issues with people looky-loos, people following Google and not getting there correctly.
You try and get Google to change that.
Yeah, and what ends up happening
I want to
is
see you do
Dan and
that.
Stacy live at the end of the road, and they literally have tire tracks on their private property where people are turning around with their campers. And we want less of that, not more of it. And opening this up will just make us have more traffic. So there's my opinion.
So you're not opposing this?
No,
You're
I'm
in
opposing it.
support.
I think it's crazy to do this. There's no value to the public.
You're supporting the
You're supporting
You're supporting
theirs.
the
vacation.
You're a proponent.
You're supporting
Okay.
keeping it private.
Private, yes.
You're confusing
There you
me.
go. I'm
Okay.
confused too. I didn't know till Saturday
That's okay.
night that this was even a thing.
We can figure it out. Anyone else that's
Thank you.
opposed?
Oh, proponent, no. I'm against.
You're against?
I'm
You're,
against.
you're an opponent.
I'm a proponent. Is that what I'm called? Yes.
Do you want to come up and give your testimony?
Sure.
Go ahead.
We need to change those. In
Stacy.
favor?
Stacy Thielen, I live in Cascade, and I live on Calendar Road. I don't have anything real detailed, or as Phil said, we just noticed the sign just a few days ago. Now, we don't go to town all that often, so this just came to my brain. Dan and I have lived here since the third week in July. We've owned our place on Calendar Road for about 4 years before we moved here. Our family has homesteading roots in New Meadows, so the state of Idaho has always been a love of ours, which is the reason we gave up our lovely home in Western Oregon to move to an area that was not McCall and seemed to have, at the time we were thinking about buying, values that's what we were looking for. We were not looking to move to McCall or anywhere like it. So we packed up, made a very difficult move, and this is where we landed. So since the short time we've been here, I've heard about a lot of things, seen a lot of things, which I personally am not thrilled about. So I'd like to address the public interest. If it's in the public interest. Well, that has a lot of different pieces to it. What does public interest look like? It's probably different for each person. My public interest is probably much different than the public interest of a developer that wants to come in and possibly make a subdivision. That is not in the public interest. I realize there are thousands of acres that used to be filled with cattle in this area. I realize that, and I don't have a timer, so please let me know. I realize that these large amounts of acreage are going to be sold because a lot of the younger generations don't want to ranch anymore, don't want to farm. I also realize that in my short time here that this county is in a bit of jeopardy from the infrastructure. The fire department that I was involved in those meetings, the fire district is stretched so thin, like a rubber band. And even though we get a lot of tourism, the state of Idaho doesn't seem, it's been my understanding, doesn't want to let go of any monies to help support. So, and the school levy that just got passed. Now, I don't have small children anymore, but talk about building a road. We're going to build a road. Who's going to pay for that road? Who's going to pay for the maintenance? Corral Creek Road at this time is not very well maintained. Several times, our neighbor to the south has gone into the road department to say,
You're talking about Crow Creek from
Corral Creek from Highway 55.
back to the highway.
I just have a couple more points. Is it
Okay, make them quick, please.
Yes. He's gone to the road department and said, hey, you need to come take care of this. So infrastructure, fire, police. And I've seen this happen so many other times. Developers come in, they got dollar signs for eyeballs. Public interest. Whose interest? It's not my interest. So who's going to maintain that road? Who's going to pay for it? If they want a road, it needs to be a private road. They need to maintain it themselves. I see that this county is already burdened. What they're going to do in the future when maybe more land starts to be sold, I don't know. But I think some of that has to be figured out before this endeavor moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy. Anyone else? Last call. Anything else you want to add? You guys ready to move forward before I close the hearing?
Ready?
Yep.
I don't know if you want to make a finding or at least discuss that this perhaps was validated back in 1990 erroneously, as requested by the Kennedys. You want to make that finding? They've claimed that it's just a logging road with easements to the, what was it, Boise Cascade, somebody else, and then DF Development. And that it will once again be that just interim ranch roads, logging roads. And I do recommend that you just vacate that public prescriptive use, whatever you want to call it, from Joe Kennedy's property.
Senator, did they, I mean, question for these guys, but Boise Cascade approached Kennedy's to allow them to build that road through their property so they could get timber off that land. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, is that Hugh Kennedy gave Boise Cascade written easements that have been recorded to access their property for logging purposes.
And there was a lot of that
There's
that
a
went
lot
on.
of that around the
A
county.
lot of that went on all over the county.
Sure. Absolutely.
And those recorded easements were specifically
Just for
for
logging.
the benefit of Boise Cascade. Have you
And
pulled those
successors.
easements
Successor and just
Successors and assigned.
just for logging.
Mm-hmm.
just for logging, specifically called out in the deed?
I remember the ones I've seen.
Some of them have specifically for logging, some of them don't. I think the greater portion has just for logging.
So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, Doug, at 1:45, and we can begin deliberations. I guess I can go first. I've always felt from day one that this was a mistake on the county's part to declare this a public road. I've known the road since I was a little kid. We used to be able to drive all over the Boise Cascade roads, Huckleberry and cut wood and fish. And over the years, as the public's come in, we've had to, those rights or those free rights were kind of taken away because the public abused them and destroyed stuff. And so the gates went up and a lot of that has changed. But this road is, to me, is a privately owned ranch road between Kennedy's and DF Development. It was never designed for public access. And I think it was erroneously added to the list. I'm done. Who's next?
I think we've already discussed it. I mean, we already made a decision. I wouldn't make a different decision at this moment in time. We're doing it legally to make sure that you're all protected into the future, but we already made a decision before for you. So, I mean, that's just,
I agree. Everything I've read and heard, we need to, and I'll make a motion to,
We have a motion in your,
oh, yeah, we already have the motion, don't we?
so just written this up, the motion, if you want to read it.
I've got it if you want me to do it.
Yeah.
I move to approve the vacation of a portion of Corral Creek Road, a public road right-of-way from the southwest corner of RP 13N04E 154805, where Corral Creek Road enters the parcel, and then east to the intersection of Corral Creek Road and Horse Thief Road, as shown on the attached maps, and authorize changes to the Valley County records, including the official road name list, official road name maps, Valley County GIS maps, and assessor records. This motion is made with the understanding that the abandoned and vacated portions of Corral Creek Road will be a private ranch driveway with easements to adjoining properties.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anything else to discuss before we approve?
So that after you make this motion, I would ask that you would approve resolution 2309, the declaration of vacation.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. So now the way this kind of works is we have to do a resolution declaring this portion of Crow Creek Road as vacated. So it's not all done right now, but it will be done through resolution. Do you want to read that, Cinda?
Resolution 2309, declaration of vacation, a portion of Crow Creek Road a public right-of-way. Whereas the current action is to vacate a portion of Crow Creek Road a public road right-of-way from the southwest corner of rural parcel 13 and 04 East 15, 4805, where Crow Creek Road enters the parcel, and then west to the intersection of Crow Creek Road and Horse Thief Road is shown on the attached maps. And whereas Crow Creek Road from Highway 55 through to Horse Thief Road was validated by the Board of County Commissioners as a public right-of-way by ordinance 90-2 on July 23rd, 1990, and revalidated by the Board of County Commissioners as a public right-of-way by ordinance 20-01 on November 25th, 2019. And whereas on January 23rd, 2023, Tia Golden, representing Joseph Kennedy, requested the Valley County Board of Commissioners determine if Crow Creek Road is a public or private road, and the motion passed. The Valley County established Crow Creek Road from the Green Gate north as a private driveway that was created for logging. And whereas on February 13th, 2023, the board approved Resolution 2306, Crow Creek Road, setting a public hearing in order to vacate the public right-of-way in accordance with Idaho Code 40-203, so as to abandon and vacate a portion of Crow Creek Road to be changed from a public road to a private ranch driveway with easements to adjoining properties. And whereas on February 21st, 2023, an email was received from Vince Scott, Vice President, DF Development, that they were okay with the vacation of Crow Creek Road, which was prompted by an email from staff informing DF Development of the impending vacation of public right-of-way, requesting if they would like to include the portion of Crow Creek Road right-of-way that went through DF Development property. And whereas this portion of road travels through properties currently owned by Alpha Ranch LLC, Joseph E. Kennedy, and DF Development LLC. I'll remove the Alpha Ranch LLC portion of that. And then whereas it has been determined that retaining the public right-of-way for use by the public is not in the public interest, therefore the Board of County Commissioners hereby abandon and vacate Crow Creek Road, a public road right-of-way from the southwest corner and then east to the intersection of Crow Creek Road and Horse Thief Road, as shown on the attached maps, and authorize changes to Valley County's records, including the official road name list, official road name maps, Valley County GIS maps, and assessor's records, and authorize the chairman to sign this resolution. This motion is made with the understanding the abandoned and vacated portions of Crow Creek Road will be a private ranch road with easements to adjoining properties, and then approved by the Board of County Commissioners. And I will add a whereas that states that it's, I believe, the Valley County Board of Commissioners, that it was validated as a public roadway, right-of-way in error. And then once you've approved this, we'll come back with findings of fact and conclusion of law, just so we're in compliance with 40-203 that requires findings of fact.
So basically, the way this works is it's going to take us a couple of weeks to get all this stuff agendaed and done. But as far as today, we've done it verbally. Now we just got to do it paper-wise, and you guys will receive a copy of all that information.
And I don't think you should take out the Alpha Ranch, though. You said
Okay,
you'd
want me to
remove
amend
it.
it?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it
because I
does
think they're going
cross
to
still.
need some down in that corner. They may need to be involved.
I'll
Existing
leave that in.
locations.
I will add the whereas that it's your belief that it was done in error, and then do it from the Kennedy property.
And so then I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we approve Resolution 2309, declaration of vacation of a portion of Crow Creek Road. I have second.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor, please say aye.
I
Aye. Motion carries.
don't,
Done. Okay, everybody good?
I'll ask.
Hey, we're going to take about a 7-minute break and then we'll be back here at 2 o'clock. God, that went well.
Mr. Chairman, we are back on the record.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're still in our afternoon session of March 27th. Our next agenda item is an action item, and this is a request for permission to conduct an insurance rate study with Idaho Independent Intergovernmental Authority. Gabby, this is your ball. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Commissioners. So I was contacted by an employee who used to work for one of the cities in Idaho who had IIIA as their insurance provider for the city. And he said that the rates were cheaper than what we have and better coverage than what we have. So he gave me their contact information, and I sent an email to the company asking them if we could get some rates. And they explained to me that they come down, they do a survey, they interview some employees about their health and kind of do a survey to see how healthy the employees are as a whole. And then they determine their rates about based upon that result. So they sent me, I put it in your packet, they sent me a 7-page marketing pamphlet that talks about their rates a little bit, talks about all the cities and highway districts and fire departments that have them as their coverage. And then it breaks down a little bit about their rates. Looks like they have a few different plans, whereas, we just have one medical plan, one dental, one vision. This looks like, to me at least, on page like 3 or 4 multiple options. So we would possibly be able to offer our employees different coverages. So I would like to have your permission to have them come do a rate study to see if they can beat what we have currently.
I think it's appropriate. I was looking at their medical plans, and I don't know, they have some pretty good deductibles, but it's worth a shot. Let's see where it goes. And
If
take
they
it from
can't,
there.
then we stay where we're at. So.
No, you can't speak. Don't raise your hand. Okay, come on up.
You and I will talk later.
Okay.
Uh-oh, you've done it now.
The only thing I wanted to mention, I have had clients that use these people, so they're good, they're reputable. We are in a grandfathered plan with the GEM plan, so just be aware of that.
Right.
We can also, in order to keep our reserves, because I know that was a concern at one point, is what we would do with our reserves with the GEM plan. We can also have them come and give us some options if you want. So we could do both. But I think it needs to be, I think we need to look at the whole picture. The thing to keep in mind with where we are right now is while it's an association plan, it's still self-funded. And that's why they have our reserves. And those reserves are to pay for claims. So if we go away from GEM plan, basically what that means is that they keep our reserves until all the claims have been run out, and then they give us what's left. So that's how that works.
But I like your idea, if these guys come back and they're a better deal, to give GEM plan a shot at it.
And I think we should do both.
Yeah.
I can call Edie and talk to her about, what are some options, because I had called her previously because as Gabby's probably gotten beat up like I have about our rates. I did reach out to them and say, can't we do like a tiered plan or something? So if you want like a $2,000 or $5,000 deductible, you can purchase that instead. And she said, well, if we do anything with the plan, we'll lose the grandfathered aspect of it, but maybe it's time to think about that.
You know what the grandfathered portion of it is?
The whole plan is grandfathered. So as part of the the Affordable Care Act, when they first put that in place, they had what they considered Cadillac plans. And after, I think it was 5 years, anything that was a Cadillac plan would then be charged as a surcharge for that. Well, the surcharge went away, but we still have what's considered a Cadillac plan. And that means that if you touch anything within that plan design, you lose that. And so you can't have the rich plan that we have now. It would be a lesser plan, but honestly, it's becoming almost prohibitively expensive. The premium for a family is close to $1,000, and that's at 50%.
And this is still all Blue Cross providers,
Yes.
probably the same
Yes.
stuff, but they've got 3,000, 5,000 deductibles. Families are up to 6,000 deductibles. 10,000 deductibles. So depends on your rate, but then I'm assuming we would have some medical savings accounts that would cover that deductible. We'd offer
Could, I mean,
that.
it's one of those things we'd have to really look at the whole
Yeah.
package, design it the way that you'd want. And it's possible that, I mean, it all depends on what you want to do with the reserve and what you want to do with the gem plan. So if you want me, I can get a hold of them and see if they can give us some feedback too, and then we can look at what IIIA is offering too, and just kind of compare the two. But that when we looked at doing something different years ago, that was the biggest concern is our reserves, what's going to happen with them. And we would get them back, but they have to wait for what they call the runoff period. So it's that incurred but not paid yet.
And I think the last I saw, Gem Plan had like 11 million in reserves.
Yeah, but our portion is not 11 million.
No,
I
not
don't know
our
what
portion, but we
is.
were one of the founding counties for that plan
Exactly.
years ago.
Exactly. So,
And it's-
that's just something to think about as well.
I think it's important we look. The
I do
employees
too.
are asking us to look, I think it's great to do this.
Yep.
I mean, it's gonna save the county a lot too. Save
Yes.
employees, but it's also gonna save the county a lot.
And I
Our
agree with
deduct-
that. And that's why I had called a gem plan earlier, because for that very reason. It's just getting expensive.
What
And
is,
This
What
is
is
an
the,
action item. We need a motion.
I got a question on, I was reading on some of my paperwork that I get in my mailbox, but it said something about the NACO help providing. And I don't know how that would work. It's more like a national thing, but
Like NACO offers healthcare plans for
Yeah.
counties. I don't know.
no, I was just reading it in the paperwork that I had.
I did not know that.
Might be worth looking into.
I'll look into it.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we authorize permission to conduct an insurance rate study.
Oh, second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thanks, Gabby, for doing
Thanks,
that.
Gabby.
Okay, our next agenda item is also an action item. It's a little earlier. Is there anybody else coming? Can we go ahead and start now, or do you want to wait? We're not on until 2:15, and I don't want to leave anybody out. Maybe we should wait, huh? Travis, is there anybody else coming?
Last count, I didn't have anything, Commissioner. They didn't reserve with me.
Why not?
How rude.
Whose email, not mine.
Well, we might get in
Recorded,
trouble.
I guess.
Well, let's go ahead and get this one started. This is an action item. This is to approve additional payment to McCall Rural Fire, Cascade Rural Fire, Donley Rural Fire for the EMS district services. And I know we've had a lot of tough meetings, and hopefully we're finally getting to a point where we can do something to help you guys. As you guys know, I was ready to do this a couple of years ago, and we just didn't quite get there. But I hope we're ready today. Let me get my notes out while we're thinking about this. The last time I looked, you guys were requesting, it was 800. Where was it?
That's the current shortfall.
Where'd it go?
How much you got?
I think, well, this is what they had. This is their current shortfall, but this doesn't give them anything to actually hire new people. So
And I
it's
was
just to cover existing and salary increases.
thinking about that too.
What does yours say? 842, 188?
Yeah, but that's just to increase salaries today. That doesn't hire the extra staff they want.
That's to get them through this year. The way I understood it.
I know from what,
If there's something you don't understand, let's just talk freely, guys. Come on up.
Hello. I believe, and Chief Full and Bonnie can correct me if I'm wrong, that $800,000 just corrects the shortfall. It doesn't increase pay. or hire people for any of the agencies.
I have in the back of my mind, you guys are asking for $1.8 million. I don't know exactly. I'm looking through all my stuff right here.
That would
We've
help.
had-
The 800,000.
I'm sure.
The 800,000 just helps offset the shortfall. It does not give any of the agencies the latitude to increase pay or hire additional people.
I remember something, Chief, that you had mentioned last meeting in our work session. I picked up on was that especially for Donnelly and for Cascade, incentive money, just bonus, like bonus signing bonus money you'd mentioned. And that kind of caught my idea, and that's why I was thinking increase both Donnelly's and Cascades to a 250,000 of each.
The problem is we don't have it. I mean,
Well, I know
that's
we
just-
don't have it, but still, I mean, it's helping out those two districts if it's there to help them out, because we only have supplemental levy down the road that's gonna save our bacon. And we're well aware of that.
Yeah, I think our thought was just when we talk about one-time money and how to use it, the ability for an agency to give a signing bonus, I think could incentivize recruitment. It doesn't correct the long-term problem, but I think if employees, prospective employees knew there was a signing bonus and that the county and the fire district were working towards, a levy increase or whatever to help shore up funding, I just think it might incentivize people to apply. I know there's a lot of agencies across the country that are doing that kind of stuff.
Right.
With one-time money.
So let's go backwards a little bit. So we've been researching what the resolution is to this whole thing. And in order to get past 2%, we have to break up the district and put another one on the ballot. And to bring it into today's legislative code. If not, we are at a 2% limit. And that doesn't hit what you guys need. So we can do something short term, but we have to go through the entire process of creating a new fire district. And that is, I'm sorry, what? Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, EMS district. Apologize, misspoke. I see firemen, so I therefore.
Well, and I honestly feel like
So-
that's really the way to go, is to dissolve the district we have now with resolution and reform a new district, still the same countywide district, but it has to be voted on. It has to have a 51% approval by the voters. And then that starts your levy at 0.02 to 0.04. And that would solve all of our long-term. We would have to have an EMS board that would determine that budget request every year, just like anything else. But in the meantime, what I want to do today is get you guys to where you're even for this year.
Yeah, I think our intention was just to get that shortfall funded this year. After the last meeting, the three fire chiefs met. And I talked to Mr. Gigray, who's our fire district attorney, and he's happy to represent all three fire districts as we move forward with the Valley County operations plan and the bylaws for the
Oh, great.
administrative council, which is good. He's just really knowledgeable in fire district and EMS district stuff. I think we looked briefly at that statute with him. Like, I think there could be some wiggle room in that, the EMS districts that were formed before 2020 and after like 1976. Like, those are things I think we can work out the details of beyond this meeting and try to figure out what the best course of action is strategically. Because I think there's potentially some opportunity in that we're just not pointing out, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because really that statute says EMS districts prior to 2020 can go up to its 200th%, right? Is the levy rate, is that
0.002%.
It's 200th%.
Uh-huh.
And then they can go up to 400. It says they can go up to 400%. at the discretion of the county commissioners. And then to go up to 0.06% requires a vote and a total valuation amount of like 375 million when the district was formed, which I don't think we qualify for. I think there's latitude from 200% to 400%, but those are all legal questions we would need to work out and vet with.
So Garrett, you think your attorney guy would be able to come up and help us
I do.
sit
yeah.
down and we can
Yeah.
all talk about this sometime
Absolutely.
this summer? I mean, pretty quick here.
I think
Figure
we
out
can
a
start on
long-term
it
plan.
within the next couple weeks for sure.
And we've got to do it right away because if we give you guys one-time money today and make you whole, our budget cycle starts, that discussion in April. So we've got to be able to do something again in October. And that's my concern.
Well, if we're asking for 850 or so now to get you through this year, I'm guessing next year it'll probably be closer to $1 million to get you through. So it's like, okay, we're not thinking about just this year, but we're thinking about next year as well.
But I'm still hearing two different things. So the 850 makes you guys whole. But it doesn't give you any money for salary increases nor hiring new staff. So, but you're only wanting to be made whole and you're going to deal with the rest of it? Because Juan was very explicit that he doesn't want to go through this year without hiring new staff.
So they can't go through. Yeah. It's a difference.
I'm sorry.
So what, I guess what
Mike,
I'm
come up to the
asking,
one.
what are you guys asking for?
So we're asking for the whole thing, but we know we can't get the whole thing. We're asking to go to the 3-point-some million dollars. But we can't get there. We know we can't get there. I don't expect you guys to get us there. But you did have us come up with what our actual shortfall was and what our shortfall was over the last 5 years. Shortfall for Donnelly is $1 million in 5 years, coming out of fund balance and fire district tax revenue. So the shortfall for Donnelly this year is 202,000 and some odd dollars. Yep, I can't give raises with that, and I can't hire medics at 70,000 because my other medics aren't even making 70. My captains aren't even making 70,000 as medics, so we can't do 70 for new hires with that money. But what we can do is other things. One, look at the possibility of doing sign-on bonus. Two, bonuses at the end of the year for the entire staffing that deals with EMS because we're working them hard. As of tomorrow, I have 1 shift with 3, 2 shifts with 2, and I have a roving medic who has to make sure we have a medic every day. Cascade's been running that way for a while. So we have had to lessen how many people we have on shift because we're overworking our medics. So that's where we're at. So that's what we'll use the money for, is to solidify the system, not use so much of the fund balance for the rest of the year, and use some of that money to go back to the employees that were overworking last year and we're completely going to overwork this summer. So I don't lose them in September. That's where it's going for us.
And I'm saying that number is 842,188. You guys
That's all
agree to
3
that?
districts collected, correct?
Or,
That's
sorry?
all 3 districts
Right,
together?
all 3.
I can't answer for the other 2, but go ahead.
What you have, Jeff?
This is the sheet that I handed out last time that showed the original asking amount, and then to cut that in half would be an additional for the 6 months of 247.
Okay, and that's what I've got. Oh, here it is. No, I only had you guys at 132.
To make them whole right now, their shortfall is 132,609. But Steve was asking that for that 493,061 to be able to hire, correct?
Correct, and where we're 6 months through the year, after that would be the 245 would get us through. Because like you said, the 132 is just a shortfall for the current year, but that doesn't allow us to do anything additional for wages.
So yours would be 246,530.
Here it says 247.31.
Oh, he updated it.
And Juan and Garrett, you guys have any different numbers than what we've got here?
Oh, sir.
Shortfall.
We're all good?
Still owing the contract, and then that would be the 247,031. Would be half of.
So my question for you guys is, what are you gonna ask for in the budget? Because we only have so much money. And so it's like, we can give it to you now, but come budget time in 6 months, we're gonna have to replicate that. And that's, that's what is the unknown. We're gonna have a lot of work to do between now and then to figure out how we make this sustainable, because I'm just concerned that,
Commissioners, it's not going to be the Valley County EMS district levy because we're going to be maxed out at our 3% in new construction. So the commissioners are going to have to look at using county dollars to cover the additional requests.
right? And we have 2.4 million right now in PILT.
That's correct.
And so,
Doug, when do you get PILT?
Usually we receive the next payment in June.
June.
I'm just trying to figure out how we halves it, I guess. How do we give you what you need now, but also try and replicate that so you have some idea of stability, at least for that next year. And we have to work out the levy thing. So just trying to figure out how to balance it so that you guys can do what you need, get funding for right now, but also in 6 months, we have to be able to do something more. And it's just, if we totally drain PILT, and honestly, I'm not comfortable totally draining PILT. That's our only savings account for the county. If we have something catastrophic happen because of the Four Corners fire and West Mountain Road gets wiped out, we gotta have money to go do something with. So I'm just very uncomfortable just draining that only reserve that we have as a county. We can't just go borrow money. So,
But for right now, I think we need to do the shortfall and work on this down the road.
And like I said, I'm happy we can start getting after this right away. Updating the operations plan, the bylaws, and coming up with a plan that, the prosecutor's office and our attorney agree is workable. And then we can come to the table and talk about all of it for sure.
well, this is a question, I don't know if you guys have discussed this at all, but you are fairly, we need to make you whole as far as your budget goes, but your salaries are fine. So if we were to give Steve a little more and Juan a little more, so they could actually increase their salaries and or hire staff, is that gonna be a problem for the McCall area? No? Because I do feel like, these employees in Cascade and Donley have been working at substandard wages, and we need to do something for that. So if we only do the 850, it doesn't give them the extra assistance they need for now to try and go out and hire somebody. So if we tried to do something like $1.2 million and make McCall whole, but then separate Donley and Cascade, and I don't know if it needs to go, just 50-50 from there or something. But that still gives us $1.2 million in our savings account until we can build some more fund balance come June.
Come
But
June,
then-
we'll get more PILT. We've
Yeah.
got 2.4 now if we split that in half.
Right.
And get more in June, we should be okay to help them next year with another 1.2.
Well,
It's gonna be close.
it's gonna be very close because
Would hesitate the commissioners committing to that. I think
Sure, no.
we
Yeah.
really have to take a close look. What I'd also like to offer up is currently there's 368,000 in the Valley County EMS district fund with 442,000 still to be collected. So there might be some additional funding out of the actual fund that we could contribute, maybe to pay off the ambulance. I don't know, just another solution or an option that I think the commissioners should take into consideration.
How much is in it?
Currently, right now, 368,000 with 442,000 to be collected, but we still have to make the second half payment to all of the fire districts of 212, correct? So there might be
625.
208.
208s. So sorry, I was trying to do this in my head. Well,
I don't know what the minimum is. I mean, I don't think we should drop below $1 million, $1.2 million in PILT. That's my concern is even when we get our PILT fund.
that would leave about 100,000 in the, sorry to interrupt you, Commissioner
No,
Mocker,
you're
my
fine.
apologies.
Fine.
Well,
Just
I
trying to
think
make it.
each district might be unique, and that could be a question for each, fire district's board of commissioners is what they can do with one-time money, and if they would even be agreeable to trying to do a hiring bonus for recruitment. That was just kind of an idea. That's what I would be doing or trying to do if we were in the same boat as them. But I think that's an independent question for their respective boards of commissions.
If I was one of the fire guys already there, I'd be mad. I didn't get something out of this whole deal and you're hiring
We got to
people.
correct it at some point.
Yeah, we do. So,
So Sherry, what you're talking about is 500,000 for McCall,
yeah,
350 for each of the other two districts.
yes.
Do $1 million out of PILT.
Just do $1 million out of PILT then. And take 500 and give it to McCall and give 250 to Donnelly and 250 to Cascade.
And then they're gonna get the second half of this year's. Doug gets it collected.
And the treasurer gets to collect it, just
Another, yeah,
clarification.
another 200 and some thousand dollars each.
And then we're really gonna have to look at the budget because it's just not gonna be there to keep replacing this out of, what's there. It's just not.
Well, that leaves us enough for next year. If the world collapses and the bridges burn up and all that stuff, we'll still have enough to cover for next year's over too. I like that idea.
That's a starting point.
So is
And
that
then-
acceptable to all three fire chiefs? I mean, you're gonna have to go back to your boards, I understand, but if we give McCall 500 since they have the largest hole, Steve, that actually gives you a little more than you're even asking for. So we did the 247,031 that you're asking for the 6
Right.
months. And then just
Yeah,
do the
I
same
think-
thing for,
It'll definitely help, but yeah, we'll have to negotiate with next year because we cut that number in half for 6 months where
Right.
McCall does get that because they have expended that in their budget and we will here on out, but yeah, we'll have to have everybody get in together and work things out.
I hope you're right, Garrett. I mean, I've read that legislation so many times, I don't see it. I think we're gonna have to break it apart and redo it, but I don't think we break it apart until after we pass something new. But it's only 50%. And if we do go out and try and go up to the 2%, we gotta have a super majority. We gotta have 67% to get that even up to the 2% balance. And so that's,
If you're interested, I did pull up the statute that I was talking about. There's a special section in the code for EMS districts that were formed before 2020.
I don't have it right in front of me, but I've looked at that.
It says in any county where an ambulance service district is created as provided, the Board of County Commissioners is authorized to levy a special tax not to exceed 0.04% of market value. And then in the section under that, it says that if you provide ALS, you can go up to 0.06% of market value with a qualified election of 2/3 majority.
See, in this other way that we were looking at is dissolvement and forming a new district, you only need 51%. I like that.
Yeah, no, I
I
think
think we
we've
can
got
get
some.
that
I think we
through.
have some options, and we need to just
And it gives you a higher levy rate.
yeah. And I think all 3 fire districts are absolutely willing to help figure out how to fund this appropriately.
It would have been a lot easier if the governor would have signed House Bill 292 today, but he didn't. He vetoed it. So property taxes are not going to be going down this year.
Okay, so we're thinking of $1 million out of PILT. That'll leave $1.4 million plus whatever we get in June. You good with that?
Commissioners, it is your decision.
Very politically correct, Mr. Miller.
So we're gonna split it up. 500,000 to McCall and 250 for Donnelly and Cascade. And then you guys will get your second half in July of another 200 and some thousand. That's gonna put you pretty close to what you need.
And
That
just
work?
knowing that we're gonna do something moving forward that's sustainable.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make the motion that we authorize the expenditure of $1 million from our PILT fund to go to the EMS. Split 500,000 to McCall, 250 to the other two districts.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman, do you want this to be done today? You want this process today?
However, the process works as soon as possible. That's not a claim, is it?
We could, now that this was on the agenda, we can bring up a claim for the commissioners to process, and we can cut checks today if the commissioners are inclined to do that.
I'm inclined to do that. Let's get this done. You guys okay with that?
Unless you want to wait a couple more weeks.
Hey, we got a
About
motion and a
15
second.
15 minutes or so.
Give us a few minutes and then we'll get her done. We got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Bing, bada, boom.
Thank you. Would you like to talk about next steps or?
Yeah, actually, what we'd like to do is have Brian come up and explain this, maybe this new district, if that's okay.
So, actually, I think since we've got the three fire chiefs here, a good opportunity maybe for some clarification and a recommendation from my office, I guess. But we have really options under both statutory schemes, under the current scheme or under the more modern post-2020 scheme. I think, but I think it's deserving of everybody's input, that the best first step would be, let's look at what the options are under the current structure and what the options are under the other structure. And then the fire districts and the board can get back together and decide which option you like better. Because if you go with the post-2020 construction, we're creating an EMS board that's going to make the decisions that you're making, and it's a whole new structure. And so that operations plan that needs to be updated needs to reflect that there's going to be a new board. So depending on which direction you want to go, will determine how those operation plans, the contracts get drafted, all of those kind of things. So I guess selfishly, to preserve, not wasting a whole lot of my time or Mr. Gigray's time, if you and the districts can decide this is the best option that we want to pursue, and then let us know, I think we can be more efficient with our time.
How long do you think, a month or a couple of weeks, or to get together again to?
Well, I mean, I think that
to talk this out.
I think that, I think you as a board need to look at both options. I can draft up the options and have the district's attorney work together on that, and that can just be the next step. And I don't necessarily think it's going to take long. Just I don't know what his calendar looks like or what his availability is, but and I've talked to him on the impact fees a while back, and he's a subject matter expert in this kind of stuff. So having his input is welcomed, and I think will be helpful. But I think it would be good to hear from each of the three fire districts to see what their preferred path forward is, as well as you need to make those considerations, and then we can dig into the operations plans. And I think all of these decisions affect budgets, will affect the existing contracts we have, as well as this joint powers agreement that we signed several years ago that needs to be updated. But the formation of all of those will change based on which path you choose. So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, and I appreciate that. I guess what we could do is just kind of wait until we see what that comparison is, personally, I feel like it's a lot easier to pass a 51% than a 66 2/3, but.
And I think, yeah, we just have to figure out
We
what
just gotta
that,
look at it.
what that cap is. How do we get to where you guys need to be? That's the most critical thing, is the first step.
Yeah, I think in just looking at it from my perspective, the new model caps you at 200%. The old model, the model that we're in, basically caps us at 400%, which is twice as much
Twice as much.
taxing authority. Yeah, but if you guys are agreeable, we can have Mr. Gigray reach out to Mr. Oki. They can kind of discuss this, and maybe we have a fire chiefs meeting with them or something and sort it out, and then get back on a county commissioner's agenda to show you what we.
And I guess my only thing is I don't want to drop this, Garrett. Let's get on this
So
within a month or two.
I promise it will,
Yeah.
will not be.
Yeah, let's keep going with this because we got the ball rolling now, and I'm glad we got your issues solved, and it's time to go back to work. Okay,
Ready to work.
great.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good luck in you're gonna be on the levy or on the election in May. See how that goes.
Yep, round two.
Hey, we're gonna take a break and be back here at 3:00.
We are back on the record, Mr.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're still in the afternoon session of March 27th. Our next agenda item is an action item. These are an update on planning and zoning fees.
Ridiculous.
I'm going to turn it over to Cinda, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so periodically we go through our fees and updates, and last time we updated fees was December 6th of 2021. So it's been a little over a year. I did sit down with my staff and determined how much time it takes to process an application, and then try to determine, what the postage would be or any notices and things like that. We've always been under the assumption that we shouldn't be charging fees that are greater than what it takes for us to actually process them. And so we're proposing kind of a little different things in the conditional use permit, because sometimes someone will say, well, what's your conditional use permit? Well, it depends upon what it was, because we had residential, commercial, and others. Well, it didn't make sense that others was like solar panels, and that was more than like the residential or something else. I know that the commercial was less because we had decreased it to try to stimulate commercial uses during the recession. It used to be the 250. So home-based businesses, if a CUP is required, we kept that at 200, just to try to, stimulate those, so people will, start these home-based businesses at their houses, and then if they get large, they can move out and get a different conditional use permit, or find something in a city or an impact area. And then all the others, everything else, just for consistency, would be the 250.
Can't shut the door, but just tell them be quiet.
They're just all drunk with all the money they just got.
Uh-huh. That's exactly what's going on.
They're leaving now. Go ahead, Cinda.
My wife's being the heavy.
The multi-purpose conditional use permits, administrative plat, that's something that I would just review. We kept that at 200. Short plats are 300.
So, because that was the existing amount, you don't think that it's taking you longer in any way to do any of this work? Or just, no?
I just don't. I mean, an administrative plat, they bring me, a copy of a Mylar, and I check some things, and it doesn't go to hearing or anything else. And that's just the administrative portion. When they come back to the final plat for the board, there's an additional 200. So these are cumulative. Just a preliminary plat, if there was a 2-lot subdivision, that's 600 plus 200 for the final plat plus 300 for the surveyor. So we're right up there at $1,200. So I think those costs are being covered. And it really doesn't take more time to process something that's 10 lots than 2 lots. And it's all the same process, all the same notice. So I think our fees there are fair. If we have something big like Tamarack,
PUD.
1,000, which is variable. We can, if we're spending a whole bunch of time, we can charge more. Variances stayed the same. Appeals is at the 500. One time we had increased that to 1,000, and then the board wanted us to lower
We got
that.
a lot of help from people because it was too expensive to appeal. So we dropped it to 5, but I'm more concerned, is a vacation take that much time?
Well, it's 2 public hearings.
Oh, okay.
It's a public hearing with the P&Z and a public hearing
Yeah.
with the county commissioners. And we have to send stuff certified according to the state
Right.
statute. So
Well, and if you think about, I'm in a public hearing, it's your staff, but then it's also all the planning and zoning, and then it's also security detail. And when it comes in front of us, it's got to pay our salaries, it's got to pay,
Doug, it's got all
Doug's
of us.
most of and recording fees, so.
right, that's why appeals are probably the worst. Because that's when, Oki gets involved and there's a lot of time there.
That's, yeah, so I'm back to questioning that $500, but, yeah.
Just because he talks a lot.
That's when it gets really labor intensive, is when we have.
Yes, but it's money well spent.
So, well, yeah. Wait till we have to do a transcript. See, road name change request. We increased it to the 250 because there is a public hearing involved with that. It's a lot, it should be more than the 75. Administrative permits we've raised to 75. That includes the accessory dwelling units, the floodplain, the recreational vehicle campgrounds, and the short-term rentals.
So it went from 50.
It went from 50 to 75. Mostly because of the mailing. Because we do send, for like short-term rentals, we do send notice to the adjacent people, letting them know that there's a short-term rental next to them.
Well, on the code enforcement on it, does that cover Jody's time?
She has 309 right now. And, I mean, that's over $15,000. So, and that's with the $50. So, we're making bucks now.
So if,
Gotta pay for this stuff somehow.
so, I mean, if you looked at the appeal part, do you feel like it needs to go back up?
I think it should be $5,000
Okay.
if they're painful. For my pain and agony and stress. It takes a lot of time because we have an appeal and then, someone might ask for the motion of reconsideration. I mean, you've seen how much time we've spent with a recent one that you're going to make a final decision on later today.
Right.
I mean, they are a lot of time.
We used to be at 1,000 and people would just climb all over because they couldn't afford to appeal it. But, if you go to district court, it's gonna cost you a lot more than a grand.
Yeah.
You could go to the middle and go 750,
749.95.
maybe.
The fee that you pay, I think it's $225 to file an appeal with the Idaho Supreme Court. So their fees are not high. And so I'm a little bit reluctant from a due process standpoint to put those fees at a place that would be a huge deterrent from people to be able to come in and address their concerns. I know there's a fine line that you can get completely bogged down with that, but your fees really need to be targeted at recouping your costs, but knowing that there's going to be some procedures like the appellate process and the motion for reconsideration that it's going to cost the county more than $500 to collect that fee. But the courts want to be accessible to its citizens, so they don't set the fees too terribly high. And I think the concept should be considered similarly by this particular board, so that.
What about, Brian, reconsiderations?
I mean, I probably
I don't know, it's not-
invested 10 or 20 of my time, my hours in that, but for the most part, it's not a public hearing.
$500 an hour.
You're not, yeah, but you're not,
$50 an hour.
you're not taking public testimony. It just really takes the 30 minutes
short
of your
one.
time on a board to do that. So, and here's the thing about that. The motion for reconsideration is a required procedural step in order for a citizen to take it to district court. They can't get to district court without that additional requirement according to the Local Land Use Planning Act. So when you start looking at the costs to apply for a conditional use permit and then appeal a decision and then another fee for a motion for reconsideration and then a filing fee for the district court, it does start to add up. So
I mean, how do you recoup those costs though?
well, I think that you're not going to. I think that that's part of the function of government, and that's why we collect property tax fees to cover some of those portions. So your fees are only going to be to recoup a portion of the cost to do that particular function that that we're elected to do.
Okay.
So just my 2 cents on that, but you do have some leeway or some flexibility to, and just to be transparent with you, Commissioner Thompson, I had kind of questioned the $1,000 fee a year and a half ago as being fairly high. So I guess my statements here come with a little bit of bias. So take that into consideration.
Okay.
So we aren't truly covering our costs.
Right.
So the next one is the sign permit. We just added it to the list and raised it by $5. Been 15 and 20. County surveyor is $300 plus $1 a lot. You know, we've been coming out okay.
Cindy, before we move on, have we renewed that surveyor contract?
It automatically renews each year.
So he hasn't asked for any more, or? Wow. Catching a break there.
He just likes to work with us.
We don't like automatic renewable contracts. Has Brian seen that one? Oh, okay.
I believe he wrote it.
Oh, got it. All right, fine. The surveyor.
I mean, otherwise we're gonna end up without a surveyor.
We actually
No
had that
idea.
happen my first year, I think.
No, John did it forever. I
And
mean,
then
he was processed. He was
I made him mad, remember, and he quit.
Mm,
About the second year. I remember that.
that's over.
Now I have a story. You
That's over
can't
your
holler at me
GIS
anymore.
person.
Somebody
But you're gonna have stories too before you finish this job.
I already do.
Extensions, 250, that's just a duplication of the CUP fee, because we have to notice it, public hearing it, and all of that stuff. When we're going through the process, we say, are you sure you don't need like 2 years? Because, you know, there's nothing more painful than an extension.
Right.
Ordinance amendments, you know, because it has to go through P&Z Commission, county commissioners, we have to codify it. So if somebody wants an ordinance amendment, $500.
So do we charge McCall City for a impact area ordinance amendment?
We don't, that's all, they handle all that. They should be handling all of that administrative work. I
Oh,
believe that
okay.
you guys pay for the noticing.
We pay for the notice, right?
Clerk, yes.
Out of the printing, out of the commissioner printing budget.
Not mine. Engineering fees. We charge people 105% of whatever our engineer costs charges us. You know, they're very reasonable. I think for all of Tamarack through all of the years, you know, it gets up to like maybe $50,000, 30 to 50. I think it was 50 for both that and Jet Mountain. I mean, they're very reasonable with their fees. And then we charge the applicant back on that.
Who is our Valley County engineer?
Parametrics.
Parametrics is, okay.
I've been working with Doug Kmenish and Cody Jansen for, 20 years. Like that. And then, let's see, we try to get a deposit prior to any of those engineering fees being expended. I don't think we've been stuck with anything yet. Except on one of the appellants. So 300 for a CUP, 1,000 for the subdivision, and then if it doesn't cost that much, we reimburse them. Keep track of that. And then we added street signs to this fee list. When we have a plat come through. This covers the signs, the intersection signs and the stop sign. And we didn't raise any of our copy fee. We really don't do a lot of copies for anybody anymore.
Looks good to me.
How much does a Mylar plat now cost to make?
We don't do Mylar. We don't make a Mylar.
I mean, the ones that I signed the final plat, those big,
They bring those in for us.
So they pay out that all, we don't
They-
do any of that,
We
okay?
need 2 Mylars, 2 blue lines, and an 8 by 11.
Good.
We have to bring all that, we get the plat package ready. We try to get it to you a week ahead of time.
So everybody good with those fees?
Yep.
If you are, then I need a motion to approve resolution 2308.
So moved.
Second.
Moving to second, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And today is the 27th.
Phil, thank you.
Thank you,
Right, the
Cindy,
day
good
after
job.
Sherry's birthday.
What?
The day after Sherry's birthday.
Sherry? Awesome.
You want these back?
Did you want us to sing? Is
Yes.
that what you're after all day?
All right.
You don't get it every year or on your, no, every year
You
Cindy's
want us to sing?
birthday.
We can sing to you. It's okay.
Every year Cinda's birthday's on the summit day.
I know.
So we gotta sing her happy birthday.
Killing me.
We all get together in the county just to wish Cinda happy birthday.
Great.
Oh,
Thank you.
Well,
That's ringing on my phone. Why is my
I think
iPad?
somebody's buying lunch next week.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, we're gonna move on down. Our next agenda item is also an action item. This is a discussion on applying for your charging and a fueling infrastructure grant. Commissioner Mopin, I think this is yours, or is it
Yes.
Scott's?
It's mine. I sat in on NACO's webinar on Friday. This came up, there's funding available in the infrastructure bill. And there's 2 buckets of funds. One is a community grant award that is 500,000 to 5 million. And
Jeez.
then the other one is I know, buckets of money, they're flowing crazy. The
Wow.
other one is they have to be on specific routes, which basically they're US highways, so that one would be 95. But my thought process behind this, the Economic Development Council has been discussing the fact that people are starting to come up here, they're driving electric vehicles to come and recreate, to stay, and it's a part of our economy as we move forward. If we want people to continue to come, I know there's a lot of people that don't, but if we want people to be able to come through our county and spend money and come and join us and spend money, we are eventually going to have to put some EV charging stations in. And so the largest, what they're really pushing is that you do community-wide, so it's not a one-off machine. So like somebody could actually join us and then be able to have multiple locations within Valley County. And so I just wanted to put this out there for you guys, if you think this is something that we should be thinking about moving toward. And then they've got to be on the highways. So my thought is that over here in the northern parking lot, we asked Scott to somehow figure out where would be a good location for an EV charging station. These are type 2 stations, so they're a slower trickle than the type 3 are, but they're a lot less expensive. But if we worked with, say, McCall, Donley, tried to come up with a few different locations for these, we could actually go after a higher dollar figure if we did multiple ones. And then maybe get the level 3, which are the fast charging stations.
I mean, there's no reason not to put in a fast charging station.
Yeah.
People are gonna want that.
That's what I think so too. I think the 2s are gonna be at a lot of either hotels where you're staying overnight or something like that. The larger ones have a 20% grant match, which they're encouraging public-private partnerships. And so I don't think that we would qualify for that anyway. But the community grants, the 500,000 to 5 million, and it costs about $1 million to put one in. But then they go and they swipe their card.
No
And
way,
you
$1
get-
million bucks for those?
Yep.
'Cause there was a hotel we stayed on, it had 8 of them in a row.
Yeah. But did you have to swipe your card and charge?
I don't have.
Oh, you don't have a card. Never mind. So there,
But they
but it's a
wouldn't even let me
recurring.
Park there.
Yeah. It's a-
Gas engine car, why not? This is
parking space.
discrimination.
Well, it's an ongoing source of income. They are creating revenue streams. I do know that Faraday's got a grant in McCall, so there will be one in front of May Hardware.
Hey,
So, I don't know your guys' thoughts. I'm putting it out there for discussion. Right now, the money is there in the infrastructure bill to do this. And I think it's incumbent upon us to do something. And so it's kind of like, do we wait until there's not free money available? And that's,
I know, I just bid the job at Brundage, and they're having 3 charging stations out in the parking lot. I'll have to wire.
everybody's kind of getting on board with this, and it's, you know, and honestly, it's a part of our economy as we move forward. I mean, I think they're ridiculous. I can't imagine that you are not gonna have gas-powered vehicles, you know, long into the future, because the infrastructure's not there.
I don't know,
And
man, they're
until-
eliminating gas ranges and air conditioners,
trying.
and they're trying to get rid of a lot of stuff now.
They are.
And they also say there's not enough environmental stuff to continue making these batteries either.
Yeah.
And I think it's something more that the private sector should provide, not us.
I agree.
However, the private sector, and I hear your statement, Scott, the problem is in the private sector, $1 million is a big investment.
And these things were like poles this big. How can you get $1 million into those things?
You can't.
That's what I was told by Idaho Power.
Well, Idaho Power's,
So I don't know if you have to
Costco just
pull
put them in
220.
there. Costco in Meridian, they put 8 of them, have 8 of those charging stations, put them out there by the tire changing area. It's like, I guarantee they didn't pay $8 million for those.
If you guys are interested in the conversation, I will bring Idaho Power in and we can have that full
Idaho
conversation.
Power has several stations in there, next to the training center that's on Franklin. I don't know if it's on between 5 Mile and Cloverdale. They have a training facility up there. And they have a bunch of those Nissan Leafs. And they have a bunch of those charging stations, but they're private to them.
Mhm.
So, and then there's a charging station behind, and there's like 3 or 4 of them behind Toscano's off of Oberlin. So they're starting to come along, and those were some of the first ones I ever saw.
Well, and the thing is that normally the EV cars right now will go about 300 miles. So you go to Boise, you drive around down there a little bit, and you try and come home, and you could be at risk. So that's,
Well, I think, you know, if you want to go ahead and dig into it, let's see what kind of grant we can get. But my thinking is I don't want to spend a lot of money if they're $1 million a pop. I have real heartburn with that.
No way they could be $1 million pop.
But if you
Get
could
more
get 6 or
information.
8 of them for, I don't know, 60 or 80,000, maybe that might be something to look at.
what I'm hearing is that if we can get it through grant funding, that's the direction we want to go. I definitely don't want to spend county taxpayer dollars on it.
But people are gonna want those charging stations in a really nice, accessible location because they got these $200,000 Tesla cars and vehicles. They don't wanna pull up on a dirt road and park there. So that's something else we
Well,
have to do.
and the grants have to be along, they have to be visible on the state highways. So you gotta be able to pull off the highway onto it, so they have to be readily accessible. I mean, they're, the new cars, the new Volvos are all EV cars. I mean, so it's not just Tesla anymore, it's all of them.
A lot of them are.
There's just a ton of them, so.
Dodge just came out with an electric pickup. Supposed to be pretty good.
They're all coming along, so all right, I will do a little bit more work then and look into these grants. I think we have until the end of May.
So this is an action item, so I'll make a motion, we authorize Commissioner Mopin to apply and look for a charging and fueling infrastructure grant.
Seconded.
Who did second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Let's go on down and get our next item. This is an action item. This is the final decision for Tamarack Falls Estate CUP 2237. Do we need to send in here? You got it?
We've got the
Where is it?
stuff in front of us.
Send it. I
Did not bring a copy to sign because I sent it to you.
Right.
To review. If I need to run and grab a
Print one off too if we need.
signable copy, I can do that. Perhaps send a print one. Was there any questions about that particular document?
No, it looks really good to me.
I'll have send a printed document.
So I need a motion to approve this final decision in the matter of Tamarack Falls Estates.
Chairman, I move that we approve the final decision use, conditional use permit 22-37 for Tamarack Falls Estates.
Do the second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries, and this takes all three of us, so as soon as he gets it printed, we'll pass her around.
Well, it's all printer paper.
Hey, did you get lunch today with these guys? Oh, good. They're kind of cheap, aren't they? Just throw this away.
Okay, this is double-sided, so
I didn't know we got Narcan either.
Skip brought us some.
You know we have this?
Yeah, Skip brought us some.
Still do this expense service for the clerk.
Help getting us off the fentanyl.
Get us off fentanyl, that's what I need right now, is fentanyl. Gabby, do it. Thank you, sir.
You see where they, down there on the border, they got about 2,300,000 fentanyl pills interrupted.
Every day.
That's coming across the border.
Just lost a kid down here last week. OD'd on it.
Yeah.
You're in Valley County?
scary stuff.
Very
Yeah, that's a one shot and you're out.
One pill, what is the new slogan? It's like one pill and it could kill or something like that. Got a whole slogan.
Thanks for putting all this together. It's great.
Weekend in Maupin, Oregon.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Is family from there?
Except for they have to be related pretty closely because they both came from the same location in the country, so.
It was 50 degrees and there was green grass growing, and that was what I was looking for.
I'm leaving, I wanna go.
Let me take
I'm headed to Walla Walla this weekend, there better be some
TCU
grass
too.
there.
I was looking out my back window this morning. I was like, it's never going to melt. It was 6 degrees. I was like, it's going to melt.
I know, it should be April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
Man.
Okay, this is the last item on our agenda today. This is an executive session for Idaho Code 74-2061B, employee evaluation. So need a motion to go in, please?
I move that we go into executive session per Idaho Code 74-2061B. Consider the evaluation of an employee.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded by roll call, please.
Mop and I.
Neil Thompson, aye.
Esbrook, aye, and Doug, we're in right at 3:30. You know when you're off.